You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Looking forward to our community questions this week on the Cabral HouseCall. As always, we have some amazing questions coming in from our community. And one thing I want to let you know is that each and every weekend we do answer your questions. I'm going to try to get, again, to about 6 to 8 per episode, so both Saturdays and Sundays. But please always do keep in mind that any customer service questions, whether it's specific questions on Dr. Cabral Detox or it's a lab test, you can get same day, up to 48 hours, but typically same day, 9 through 5 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, by just emailing support@stephencabral.com or support@drcabraldetox.com. Either one of those, our team is really here to help you. We want to help you. So please do feel free to email us at either one of those email addresses. We'll make sure to get back to you as soon as humanly possible with those answers. And then we'll save the weekend Cabral House calls for maybe some more of the in-depth questions that I would love to be able to answer for you. And again, typically your question will be answered in about 3 weeks' time. So just always stay tuned for each and every Cabral House call, which we're about to get started with right now. So our first question is from Anonymous. He or she writes in, Dr. Cabral, longtime listener, first-time caller. My question is about raw foods and being a classic vata. I'm a whole foods vegan with very occasional dairy here and there. I'm a classic vata, very small boned, always cold. I wear pants all summer in Phoenix, high anxiety, and frequent trouble digesting heavier, complicated foods, bloating, gas, lower abdominal pain, abdominal bloating to the point where I look like I'm pregnant by the end of the day, even though my upper waist stomach always stay very small. And so I'm not going to read the whole question, but as always, please just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts, and you'll be able to see today's podcast page. And if you want to go specifically today's podcast page, which I recommend, go to stephencabral.com/596. And the reason you want to go to that page while you're listening or after the show is to get all of the links for all of the research, the labs, the nutritional supplements, the products, anything that I like and that I'm recommending will be on that page. Plus, you'll be able to read today's full question. I just can't read the entire question, although I have already, but I can't read it on air, as we'll say, simply because it's long and I won't be able to get to 6 to 8 questions today. So she just goes on to talk about her bloating, some of the sharp pain, some of the anxiety, and even a little bit of mild depression, having difficulty with eating things like maybe some sourdough bread, tell themselves there's some kind of cleansing type things. I've done some fasts, trying to figure out if eating grains and soups and raw foods are not ideal for a vata-based diet. I'm going to explain what that is. And so what I want to do right now is I want to explain kind of high-level concepts, the macro, the stuff that you have to get first, meaning that people will tell you right now that a raw vegan-based diet is the best. People will tell you that just a raw food diet is the best, so meaning like some raw meats or fish. Some people will tell you that a low-carb diet is the best, sometimes a high-carb diet. Some people will tell you that no grains is the best, no nightshades is the best, only eating one meal a day is the best, right? Everything's always the best. Right, so here's the thing. None of them are always the best all the time. What is the best is the proper diet for you, but every human has to have a starting point. That means we all need some protein, all need some fat, and all need some carbs. That then differs depending on the body type. And again, in the future, meaning like not for a while because we're still trying to get this first book out, I will be putting out a book exactly on how to do all these things. But well before that, I'll be doing dozens of podcasts, probably some webinars, things like that to teach people about their body type. Here's what you need to know right now. If you're a vata body type like this anonymous person right here and you have difficulty losing weight, you're cold even in hot weather like Phoenix where I just was for 4 or 5 days, you have to understand that you are the vata body type, and you have to understand that in Ayurvedic times, for you, it was always about more carbohydrates because they're easier to digest, yes, but also because your body runs on glucose. So people are like, oh, worry about your blood sugar, worry about this. Keep in mind that for most vata body types, you can eat all the carbs that you want. And again, I'm not telling you to go overboard. I mean, eat healthy carbs. And you're not going to gain weight. You're not going to have any blood sugar issues. Your body runs off of glucose. Now, that's not the same for the endomorph, which is why the advice isn't the same. However, please also do keep in mind in Ayurvedic medicine, which is still practiced today, I'm one of those practitioners, that you would want cooked foods for the vata body type. Easy to digest because your blood flow, your ability to create hydrochloric acid, which is why you can't digest protein as well, it makes it more difficult to eat those raw foods. So raw foods also do what? Well, they increase lightness in the body, air in the body. What is the vata body type? It is air and ether. So you're increasing that with raw foods. Not the best type of food for a vata. Now, can you have some raw food in your diet? Of course you can. Absolutely. You can do raw juices as well. That's a little bit different. But your digestive system most likely will not be as robust as the pitta body type or the mesomorph. So you can use the enzymes like you're talking about. I don't believe a raw food diet is going to be the best diet for you. Again, my opinion. You are in a warmer climate, which is good because that will help you obviously eat some of these more raw foods. You certainly wouldn't want a raw food diet living where I am in Boston during the winter. That's going to be a colder, constricting diet rather than the warming, nourishing diet that we need during the winter times as well. I can't go over all of these things, but please do keep in mind. So this can just be the stress and the anxiety of the high vata type, which you need to pacify, you need to calm and warm. But what you want to do is you can use a hair tissue mineral analysis to test that. Now, if you really believe that there is something going on bloating-wise, like you might have candida, you might have yeast overgrowth, you might have fungal overgrowth, you might have bacterial overgrowth, which is very possible because the vata body type can get SIBO fairly easily because of this weak peristaltic movement, run the organic acids test. So that's my advice for you is if you can do it, hair tissue mineral analysis, organic acids test, highest recommendations. If not, switch over to 3 main meals, calming, warming, and that would be absolutely fantastic for you. And if you're doing the smoothies, which of course I recommend for everyone, vata body type's easy to digest. Add some ginger to it, add some spice to it, some heat to it, and you can do a nice warm bowl of oatmeal with it as well in the morning if you wanted to. All right, Haley's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have a quick question about saunas. I've heard that infrared saunas are the best, but my gym only has a regular dry sauna. I've also heard that EMFs can be a concern. If I have a choice to make between the gym sauna, which could have a high EMF, or no sauna at all, which is the best choice? Thank you for all that you do. Your podcast is a daily staple in our house. The only bad thing about it is that our 2 parakeets freak out when they hear your voice and chirp loudly to drown you out. I guess they don't want to hear your healthy tips. That's funny. I have not heard that before. That's great. What would be even funnier is if they started repeating words that I said. That would be excellent. Maybe we can train them to do that. So here's the thing. It's all in where you're at in life. So people say, like, is this good or is this bad? If you need to be using a sauna, like meaning there's some real detox that you need to be doing, even if it's higher EMF, I still think it's worth it. Because your body is literally sitting there storing all of these toxins that you can't get out of your body. And so at least for a 3-week period of time, I'd be in there as many days a week as possible for 20 minutes to 30 minutes for sure. Now, if you can do a no EMF or low EMF sauna, such as a lot of the infrared saunas, they actually show the EMFs. And the one that I've recommended. So I've recommended this, a couple times now. Why don't I do this? I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'm going to link up the show today for the no EMF sauna that I just actually bought myself. I have a really high-end, super high-end sauna called the Sunlight and Sauna at my Wellness Institute in Boston. However, I didn't want to pay the $8,000 or whatever it was for my own home use. Now, if you have $8,000 and you want to have a beautiful brand new sauna that does mid, low, near IFR, then that's a great brand. Why don't I link up, I've done this before. I'm going to link up the lower level, the mid-level, and the high-end levels of the sauna. But also, there's one now that I just purchased because I got to speak with the owner. He's been doing this 30 years, knows what he's talking about. Amazing sauna, portable, very small footprint, and your head's actually outside of the sauna. So that helps a lot of people as well with blood pressure issues or maybe even like vata body types. So I'll link that up in the show notes. My highest recommendation, this is a fairly inexpensive one, less than $1,000. You can use it literally every day if you wanted to. You don't have to worry about the EMFs, and you get a ton of benefit. So my recommendation is you can actually buy an EMF detector. Why don't I link up one of those in the show notes as well? And you can actually see the output. If it's not that high, I always go with cost, risk, benefit analysis. And so it's like, for me to drink bottled water, well, there's plastic, and I don't like that there's plastic, but if I'm out and that's my only option, then I'm going to drink that over tap water. And the reason is, if it's a BPA-free plastic, well, I have to deal still with the plastic, but I also don't want the chlorine and fluoride and any other hidden things that are in that water, like pharmaceutical drugs, that I don't want. So again, you always have to weigh your options. A lot of the time, I'm dealing with a little bit of these EMFs because I have to. I live in a Wi-Fi and an EMF-based society. I do my best to unplug when possible. I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, but that's the best I can do in this imperfect world that we live in. All right, Jill is up next. Hello, thank you for everything you do. I love your podcast. I've been on my health journey for the past year or so, and I have a question regarding diet. What is your opinion on meat, fish consumption? I currently do eat meat and fish, and it is all organic, pasture-raised, wild-caught, etc. There's been so much debate on this topic, and I'm honestly not sure what to believe anymore. I would love if you could give me some guidance. Do you believe it is healthy? Does it depend on your body type, genetics, etc.? Thank you so much. So I've answered this actually many times on the Cabral concept, but it's a lightning rod of a topic. It's like talking about just like, it becomes too intense. I mean, like, we can't have an open discussion about it because people are so just one side on topics such as vaccines, such as meat, such as the use of pharmaceutical drugs or the use of surgery, the use of whatever. It's like you're all in one place and you just can't even just let your guard down just for a second to hear what the other side has to say. We just have to keep our minds open. And we also have to understand. So, for example, I resonate a lot with the vegan-based community. But here's the thing. And so a lot of my listeners are vegan, and I support a vegan lifestyle wholeheartedly. So here's the thing, though. When someone is not ready to become full-fledged vegan yet, we can't attack them. We can't come down on them because you weren't always vegan yourself. So if you're vegan right now, you weren't always vegan. It was a journey to get there. You might have watched some documentaries. You might have read some books. You might have seen some photos. You might have gone through your own life challenges. What I'm trying to say is that everyone is on a different step in their journey, okay? So I just want everyone to be kind to others, understand that we don't know where they are in their journey right now, and they might be doing their best to start to lower their meat consumption, lower their animal-based consumption, and that's a great thing. We should support them on that. And not just try to you're still killing animals and all that. It's a little severe, and it pushes people away from the vegan-based movement because it's either you're all in or you're not. And I understand, but again, I understand that. I understand that you're trying to do your best for all of humanity I consider kind of like us as on the earth, animals as well, as just part of this ecosystem, and you're trying to do your best. But we have to walk people up the ladder. And that's what I've learned as a health practitioner. If someone doesn't even know what a protein is, how can I get that detailed on their diet? I can't. I just need to start talking about whole foods. Hey, these are good foods to eat. These are foods that are processed. Oh, well, what's a food that's processed? Start to talk about it from there. So here's the deal, though. And honestly, this is what I believe. I really do. And I've come to this conclusion really after 20 years of study, is that if 80% of your diet is fruits and vegetables, you are going to be, for the most part, a healthy human being. Try to get organic. Try to get wild, whenever you can. If you can do that, I always say, I let everyone else debate and fight over the other 20%. But when you look at your plate, it should be vegetables, root vegetables, depending on if you're a vata or an endomorph, some sweet potatoes, some yams, some squash, whatever you'd like in there. And again, then what's left? It's 20%. Even your fat, that's still vegetable, olive oil, to my knowledge, is still fruit and vegetable based. Okay. So we're not even counting that. Avocado, still fruit and vegetable based. So what are we arguing off? That little 20% of your plate, right? Think of the blue zones. Tiny amount of their diet, 10% of their diet was meat or fish or some type of animal-based protein, okay? So That's how you live a long, healthy life. Those are the only studies that have been shown to decrease cancer, right? You can look at keto-based studies and they can show like, oh, well, when you get cancer, that can help, but you're not seeing it prevent cancer, at least not yet, okay? So here's the thing. Fruits and vegetables are loaded with antioxidants. They're loaded with fiber. They're loaded with water, which no one talks about. That's how it hydrates your cells in your body. They're loaded with vitamins. They're loaded with minerals. And yes, you can get that from meat and eggs and fish as well. But the majority of your diet should be fruits and vegetables. Again, I'll let everyone argue over the rest of it. I do believe that people would be healthier if they started to consume meat less. If you have meat more than once a day, in my opinion, you are not following a real paleo diet. And personally, I believe you're not going to be as healthy if you were to limit that to once a day or less. So that's my advice for right now. Mediterranean diet has the most around it. Same with Asian-based diets in terms of longevity. Very little meat, very little at all, if any. Mainly fish as that protein. Some eggs, not too much, maybe once a week, maybe twice at the most. And your protein is always a garnish at your meal. I'm going to repeat that. Your protein is a garnish, not the main dish. It's a garnish at your meal. Hopefully that helps. And I'm happy to talk more about that in depth, but that's a little bit longer than a house call question. Really good question, though. Hopefully you can see where I'm going with that. All right. So Adrian's up next. Hi, I've heard that canned food is dead food. Do you agree? What about home canning? Thanks so much. Love to listen to your podcast each day on my way to work. Adrian, really great question. This has actually never come up before, and I'm happy that I get to talk about this. So way back, I don't know how many years ago it was, I was over in Sri Lanka. I actually had the good fortune, never thought that this would be part of my kind of internship residency over there when I was in one of the clinics, and this was a beautiful clinic. I've worked at some, I mean, they're all great, but I've worked at some pretty rough and tough clinics. I've talked about that on past podcasts as well, but this was a beautiful one. Very, very high-end, amazing. And so when I was there, I got to attend a cooking class that was created by the Ayurvedic doctors over there called veggies. And the chefs gave me insight into why they use these particular cooking methods, which was slow cooking for the food. So slow cooked food. And it was also so that kept a lot of the nutrients in the food. And again, the cook part I was talking about earlier, because the cook part's easy to digest, very nourishing for the body. Well, they told me that in Ayurvedic medicine, food is considered dead after 6 hours of it been having cooked. So what happens is, I do agree that canned food is dead food. Well, why is that though? The main reason is that there are no enzymes left. So if you're looking at living food, it has enzymes. Now, when we juice something, believe it or not, it only has about 30 minutes of true life to keep the enzymes. Now, let's step back for a second, because I believe in having a juice 24 hours later, as long as it hasn't become oxidized if it's been capped. And because I want to qualify that, you're still getting the vitamins and minerals from it. What you're not getting are the live enzymes. So when someone has raw milk, totally different conversation than homogenized milk that's been heated up. There's no enzymes or good bacteria in the homogenized cooked milk, but they're pasteurized, but there is in the raw milk. Again, I'm not telling you to drink raw milk or not, but what I'm saying is there are two totally different things. The other thing about canned food is that it's acidic. I want to qualify that again as well, because I know people are like, oh, there's no such thing as acid and alkaline. Well, there is. So acidic means that it's able to be canned and preserved. So if something is not acid enough, bacteria will grow. So what happens is, so as a good example, tomatoes don't typically need a preservative, because tomatoes, like tomato sauce, is quite acidic, and that will allow the bacteria to grow in general. So again, these are nice little just principles in the biochemistry of food. And so again, the pH is low. Now, when you put a canned food or a more acidic or even a fermented food, I don't know where it came into, like, I'll talk about that in another show, but fermented food, for the most part, a lot of it is acidic. And what happens is, from there, our body simply requires more minerals now to bring our body back to homeostasis, which is a pH of the blood of about 7.356. But a lot of people say who acid and alkaline, they don't matter. Of course they matter. It's just the body's going to maintain a pretty much level homeostasis between 7.2 and 7.5. But your body just doesn't happen like magic. There's actual biochemistry that goes into that, which means that your body's leaching calcium, magnesium, other minerals that it needs to keep the blood alkaline. So am I an advocate of canned food? No. Does it make life relatively easier and make you have some good healthy choices? Yes. So let's say you're talking about canned wild salmon, like that's easier for you. Okay. Well, go back to my previous answer. 80% of your food then beside on that meal is probably going to be alkaline from vegetables. That means you're balancing that acidity with your alkaline-based vegetables. And that solves that issue. So hopefully that helps. Always better to have fresh food, but we live in a crazy world that is no longer set up to keep us healthy. So I want you to do your very best. And that's all you can do. Okay, hopefully that gave you the answer you were looking for. Laura's up next. Laura's asking, or she's saying, I just discovered your podcast and I love it. It's hard to find health podcasts where there isn't some strong lean towards a specific lifestyle. I find your information to be very useful and presented in a way that everyone can understand. My question is, I'm a 44-year-old female. I have a higher heart rate now. Seems to be worse past few months. Sometimes jumps up to 120 when I'm standing. Always runs close to 100. I do have a history of autoimmune. Don't require medication this time. I've had a tremendous amount of stress the last few years. I gave birth to my first and only child at 41. Husband was diagnosed with leukemia. I had to have stem cell. Mother passed away. Another grandmother had a stroke. I don't doubt I have adrenal fatigue and haven't taken an official test yet. I'm on a loss as to what's causing the higher heart rate. As of right now, the stress in my life has lessened compared to its peak. I've had a history of low potassium as well. Where should I start to figure this out? Went for a checkup with my MD and my diabetic, and thyroid panel was fine. However, I'm slightly anemic and borderline vitamin D. Thank you for all you do. Okay, Laura, this is very straightforward. Very straightforward. You're not in adrenal fatigue. You're in the alarm stage of a heightened state of adrenal-based output. So eventually you'll end up in adrenal fatigue, or you could, depending on the strength of your body, of course. So you had everything happen to you in a short period of time. That stimulates the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. I would be surprised if it's not also affecting your thyroid at a subclinical level. Just because your MD tests your TSH doesn't mean your thyroid's healthy. What about T4, right? What about T3? What about reverse T3? What about TPO? What about other things as well that you can test with your thyroid? So you can run the thyroid adrenal hormone panel. Of course, I would love you to run that. That's going to give you really definitive answers on how your hormones are doing. But if you can't do that, if it's too expensive, I understand, run a hair tissue mineral analysis. If you come back with the 3 or 4 high on your electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, you'll see that you are in that alarm stage. We need to bring you out of that alarm stage of that heightened cortisol. So what happens is it eventually burns the body out over time. The stronger your body type, the longer it takes. That's why it doesn't happen overnight to people. And the weaker the constitution, the faster it happens, like the vata body type. So, I mean, this is, in my opinion, really straightforward. Why is your heart rate high? Well, you're literally producing epinephrine, norepinephrine, which is adrenaline. Give someone a shot of adrenaline, their heart rate goes through the roof. Give yourself a nice spike of cortisol. Just say, like, what if you get scared? What happens when you get scared? Your heart rate flies up, right? You get anxious. That's the state that you're in right now. It's just low level. So you're already running at 100. You're running, your hamster inside that wheel is always on. And then anything extra just spikes it up even higher. This is, in my opinion, again, I can't diagnose you over a podcast, nor would I, right? Because in natural medicine, we don't use a diagnosis. We treat and heal the underlying imbalances. But to me, this is very straightforward. This is very clear cut. That is my opinion. You can work with one of our health coaches. You can run a lab. I will give you my recommendations. You'll work with one of our health coaches. And I honestly believe you'll get great results. I'll tell you this, though. You don't have to work with us either. Find a local health practitioner if you'd like that specializes in this type of endocrinology with functional medicine. But in my opinion, you need to get this taken care of now so that you don't burn out, because you obviously have to be really strong for your family because you're the caretaker. And so I have a lot of respect and empathy for that. I want to see you do well. All right. So let's get this taken care of right away. Do not let it go. Okay. Let's see if we can get one more quick question in today. Tom is asking, Dr. Cabral, I do a lot of working out and have some personal problems over the last year, a lot of stress. My nipples have become tender, which I believe is because of elevated estrogen levels. Do you agree? Are there any supplements you recommend? DIM. Could it be low T or elevated cortisol levels? Great podcast. I'd like going to college. Sorry, I probably just missed that. Thank you so much, Doc. Okay, so Tom, this is nice. This is a great last question to end on and answer. I totally agree with you. I think you're absolutely correct. I don't know if you're a younger guy. You mentioned something about college, and my apologies, it just didn't translate well for how I'm reading it. So I'll tell you what, I totally agree with that. I believe that you are right now converting too much testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, possibly to sex hormone binding globulin, possibly to estrogen as well. So what do we do about that? Well, there's a couple of things. Yes, you can take the DIM. You are correct. And we'll link that up in the show notes for that product that we like, that we recommend. Not a product of ours, but again, probably like 25% of the products that I recommend are the Equilibrium Nutrition. And as always, I've told you, I've created that brand because there's no equivalent to it in the marketplace. I'm so much happier to recommend other people's products because I don't have to spend all the money to actually manufacture these. But, I need them for myself. I need them for my family, my clinic. And so, of course, I'm going to make them, and I will continue to do that because that's what my mission's all about. And it's my one thing. Now, for you, I don't think you need to run the thyroid-based test, but I would certainly run, if you can, I would run the adrenal hormone test because that adrenal hormone test is going to tell you what your testosterone to estrogen level conversion is. I mean, that's going to be key for you. It really is. And if your cortisol levels are high, you'll also know why you may be converting more over to dihydrotestosterone or sex hormone binding globulin or less testosterone in general. What I'm probably going to recommend to you is using something like the Adrenal Response Complete Care if you decide not to do a lab test. Probably some magnesium in there as well to calm that sympathetic nervous system. But again, if you're possible, I'd run that adrenal test because then you'll get my exact recommendations from there. And then you'll also want to look at toxicity in general. Just keep in mind, when people have a high level of toxicity, they can also bind up more usable hormone. I don't believe that that's the case with you. Your PCP could run a sex hormone binding globulin test, but I don't believe that's the reason why. I actually believe that you most likely have higher levels of testosterone, but those higher levels of testosterone are being shunted over to dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which causes guys to lose their hair, causes guys to grow hair in their back, causes guys' nipples to be tender, causes guys to get swollen prostates. I don't know any guy in the world who wants any one of those four things. Trust me. And then obviously the estrogen conversion as well. I'll talk more about this in the future. This is a really good topic for me to talk about, but that's the place to get started without a doubt. Adrenal Response Complete Care, if you're simply looking for the nutritional supplement to get started with. Definitely, if you're not doing the Dr. Brawl Daily Protocol, I can't recommend that enough. That's always the foundation. Adrenal Response, run the lab test if possible. Get a little natural calm or the deep sleep protocol before bed to calm those sympathetic nervous system levels. Mindfulness, relaxation, all that good stuff. I have no doubt you'll be able to overcome this as well. It'll be temporary. Thank you for that question, Tom. Really smart question. Great question. Thank you, everyone who emailed in for the Cabral House Calls. Love answering your questions. And I'll be back tomorrow answering another 6 to 8 of our community's questions. Please tune back into those. Once again, thank you for tuning into another Cabral House Call. Enjoy your weekend. Talk with you soon. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.